to try to realize them in some ways. Senator Portman, welcome. You bring a lot of personal experience in these areas to this hearing, and I thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chairman Lieberman. Thanks for holding this hearing. As my colleague just said, this may not be the most exciting topic, financial transparency, judging from some of the media coverage, but what could be more important, and particularly at a time when we've got a $16 trillion debt, and as Senator Coburn said, really tens of trillions of dollars in unfunded obligations beyond that. I wanted to come here in part to thank Senator Coburn and to thank Danny, because when I was at OMB, Senator Coburn worked on some legislation that I was able to support and then help implement. And Danny was the guy I turned to help put it in place. So the Honorable Werfel, which is your title now, thank you for the hard work you did when I was working with you and what you continue to do. You were Deputy Comptroller at the time. And as you recall, we launched this effort, which we called federalspending.gov, which was in January 2007, on a real shoestring budget. We didn't have any money, basically, to do it. And as I recall, we had to go into some existing accounts to try to put something together. We had an interagency group that helped us. We actually used an outside watchdogs platform for the website because we didn't have the resources to do it internally. And that was the original database. And then after that, of course, the website platform became more sophisticated with USA Spending. But it's a critical accountability tool. I strongly support it. I have some concerns about some of the data, and that's what I want to focus on today, is how can we be sure that this data really is coming from the agencies in a way that's useful, it's accurate. GAO did a study in 2010, as you know, that said that out of a sample of 100 awards from the site, and remember this is putting all grants and contracts online for folks that don't follow this closely, but out of 100 awards they looked at, each one had at least one data error in the required field. And I know since then OMB has taken some steps to improve the data quality, but my understanding is there's still some serious concerns about standardization of data and just quality of the data. The memo you guys put out in April 2010 requires incremental improvement from each agency, culminating in 100% of awards being reported on time, completely and accurately by the fourth quarter of FY 2011. So I would ask you, Honorable Werfel, Danny, have all the major agencies submitted a plan to improve the quality of their data, and can you comment on their progress in adhering to the data quality framework you laid out, and more broadly OMB's the approach you're currently taking to tracking and evaluating that data? In other words, sort of the auditing and the follow-through on the performance of each agency.
Yeah, absolutely, Senator. Thank you. And let me just say it's an honor and a first for me to be able to testify before a former boss of mine, and I continue to be blessed by my experience in my career in the federal government and serving the federal government. We do have the data quality plans from the agencies, and they reveal a tremendous amount of difference that each agency has used to approach the problem. As an example, I think the Education Department is doing it right. They are looking to integrate the spend file that they're sending up to USA Spending back to their core accounting system, which is the audited and trusted source of their financial information. That's not an easy thing to do, as we've been discussing, because the information that's in our core accounting system is aligned by certain account structures that just doesn't translate to a program, recipient, how much money went out for this award on December 1st in 2010. We have trouble translating those two databases, but the Department of Education has figured it out, and we're going to try to figure it out across government. There's a couple of things we need to do. And they're in various stages of development, which are leading to increased reliability of the information. The first is we have to get a better handle on what our control totals are. So if you go to USA Spending right now and it tells you that the Department of Energy issued $1 million worth of awards in the month of April, how do we know that's a full and complete list. We've got to be able to tick and tie it back to the audited, trusted source that is our core accounting system. How do we do that? Well, there's some details in terms of linking data. But for us, the most important thing we can do is bring the power of the audit framework to bear in terms of that accountability. What we've learned over time, and when you were director, we were making progress and have continued that progress in getting the number of agencies that have clean audit opinions for their traditional financial statements. Why has that been so successful? It's because you have the pressure of the independent audit looking over your shoulder and saying, did you pass the test or not? We don't have that for the USA spending files. There is no auditor, there is no moment of truth where the auditor says you pass, you fail. So how do we bring those two things together? The OMB has developed something called the Statement of Spend. It's a new financial statement that doesn't exist. We have 5 basic financial statements in the federal government. We think we need 6. The Statement of Spend, at some point, if it can be audited, the auditor would only pass it if the underlying information is trustworthy and reliable. And so what we're trying to do, and what we think is one of the most important things we can do, is integrate this very powerful and robust audited financial statement with the independent mechanism with the spend file delivery that's going to USA Spending, which does not have that audit framework. I really think that could be a game changer, and that's why we've been piloting the Statement of Spend for the past few years. This year, for the first time, every agency will do a Statement of Spend, and so we're moving down a path where I think we're going to get more audit accountability and therefore more reliability.
Danny, GAO seems to be saying that you all have backed off a little bit after 2010 on your analysis of the thoroughness of the data, accuracy of data, kind of the auditing function. Is that because you're going down this sort of Statement of Spend track instead? Has OMB backed off? Are they inaccurate about that? And then the final question I've got, and see my time is expiring, is resources. You know, I'm one of those, as you know from working with me, one of those skinflints, and I'm the last guy to talk about spending more federal money. On the other hand, we've probably spent since 2006 on this whole project 14, 15 million bucks. Compare that to what's been spent on the stimulus alone, you know, the auditing there, I think it's about 84 million bucks if I'm not mistaken. To me, this is, you know, in a critical area because we're going to save a lot of money if we do this right. So those are my 2 questions. Is one, have you backed off on some of this auditing and evaluation of the thoroughness of the data? And have you done it because you're going down another track, sort of to set up essentially a new measurement, a new metric that you think will be more effective in holding people's feet to the fire? And are the inspectors general involved in that as well? Because, you know, that's something that we always tried to get, is get the IGs more involved to provide some of that action forcing and accountability within the agencies. And then finally, if you could just comment, and this goes to all 3 gentlemen, on the resource front. Are we doing this on a shoestring because it doesn't fit well into any other area? And in effect, are we therefore not taking advantage of some of the cost savings we could get if we did it in a more expedited and comprehensive way?
So, Senator, I'll start with your first question about whether we're backing off. We're certainly not backing off. What happened is I mentioned earlier that we see a lot of heterogeneity in what agencies are doing. And we had to make a strategic judgment call in terms of, are we going to layer on top of that heterogeneity a data metrics framework that we anticipated the agencies were not. It was not going to be good information to rely on, and we didn't want to just do it just to do it. We wanted to make sure that we were doing it right. So we took it in different segments. In particular, in the contracting realm, we saw a much bigger opportunity to apply a more robust set of metrics and requirements than we did in all other awards. And that's a credit to the FAR Council, the Chief Acquisition Council, and all the work that's been happening within acquisition to drive standardizations. So we're in a place right now where we have a robust set of tools in place to evaluate the reliability of the contract information on USA Spending. We actually recently just shared a report with GAO staff on some of the metrics, and GAO staff's reaction was like, why is this not public? And it's a really good point. So we committed to putting it online in the very near future. So.
And that's been part of their concern, is
Yes.
there hasn't been public data on the follow-through.
Yeah, and it was a very good point. And so we're going to move that into the public sphere. But they also raise a good point that we don't have similar metrics in grants and other types of awards that show up on USA spending. But for us, it's like building towards success rather than doing everything at once. And for example, recovery.gov and the whole recovery framework had many successful elements to it that now we want to build into usaspending.gov. We have to try to figure out which are some of the first segments of that success to build in. On your question on resources, it's absolutely true. I think one of the reasons I've survived at OMB so long is because I'm one of the most frugal people I know, and I fit in there like a glove. I'm proud that for a long time in my office the lamp still said Bureau of the Budget on it. That's how old, and I didn't need a new lamp. And that frugality makes it hard for me to ever say that we need more money. But in this situation, in particular, USA spending is financed through the eGov fund. I think we asked for $32 million for the eGov fund. I think we got in the range of $2 to $4 million, which really hampers the ability to make the types of enhancement, not just enhancements to USA spending to make it more user-friendly, to use some of the geospatialing that would enable citizens to understand where the money is going in their neighborhoods more effectively, but also to put in the quality control mechanisms that recovery.gov has to make sure that we're not making errors. Like, you can't submit this information because it bounces up against a mistake, and we're not going to let you submit that information. We haven't been able to initiate that in USA spending in large measure because of budget issues, and we're ready to sit down and go over, if it's a smaller amount of money that's necessary than the $32 million, let's sit down and roll up our sleeves and figure out what the right amount of money is, but we certainly need a resource boost in this area to make some progress.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, sorry it takes so much time. And again, just to say at the outset, I've mentioned Tom Coburn. Sometimes things do get done around here. And when I was at OMB, Tom and I had some very honest conversations, and it ended up, thanks to his efforts and efforts of others, in putting together this database that our taxpayers can look at now and see where grants and contracts are going. And so congratulations to Senator Coburn on that.